It was pretty hyped though.
It did look cool. I gotta say, yeah, that does exist.
Yeah.
Welcome to Human in the Loop, a series where we discuss what it takes to build and deploy real-world systems for the enterprise.
Welcome to Human in the Loop. Today we are reacting to AI demos. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe. And I'm Clemens Fienicke.
I'm Sam Denton.
I'm Mark Pfeiffer.
And I'm Felix Su.
Let's start with an easy one. In this example, we'll ask Manus to help screen resumes. I've just sent Manus a zip file containing 10 resume documents.
Special relationship.
Since each Manus agent has its own computer, it can work like a human. First unzipping the file, browsing through each resume page by page, and recording important information to documents. Manus works asynchronously in the cloud, which means you can close your laptop anytime, and Manus will notify you when everything is complete. Of course, you can also give Manus new instructions at any time. Here I've sent Manus 5 more resumes. After carefully reading all 15 resumes, Manus provides the ranking suggestions along with candidate profiles and evaluation criteria as supporting materials. This is pretty good, but I prefer a spreadsheet. Let's have Manus create one. Manus has its own knowledge and memory, so it can teach Manus that the next time it handles a similar task, it will deliver a spreadsheet right away.
You want to kick us off, Felix?
Yeah, I think they're all looking at me because definitely something that I've been invested in a lot here. So, I mean, at a production level, I think is maybe the more debatable part of this system. So, for sure, I think like already these asynchronous running agents and systems are, possible. We've built it. I personally built a framework that we can use to do this. And so the real question is how long, how many rollouts can you do? How accurate can it get? A demo is great because it looks like it's doing a lot of stuff, but in a real situation, if you actually sat down, is it the stuff that you would do? That's the challenging part. So definitely real, definitely coming. Whether or not you can use it in an enterprise setting is up to Sam.
I think resumes are a really great place to start because there's a lot of just textual processing, right? And I don't know if that's exactly the way that I would do a resume screening. And I think there's all this other debate about whether you should be doing resume screening with an LLM. But I think something along the lines of using an LLM to really process resumes, extract certain things that are really key to you, and then taking that information and then putting it in a spreadsheet. I think that's something you can definitely do at an enterprise scale. It's just about sort of designing the problem in a way that you really want to process.
Yeah. Can you do more complicated things? Could you do something with multiple modalities and many steps and search functionality? This one showed a lot of textual stuff.
I was thinking maybe going and looking at people's GitHubs would have been a good tool for Manus to kind of show the real capabilities of what Manus can accomplish, but I'll let them do their product marketing how they see fit.
One of the things you should probably include is actually rating the layout of the resume as you screen it, because I always feel that the layout quality of the resume is a good leading indicator for the quality of the work that people will be doing.
Yeah. What do you think is under the hood of this system? Do you think we can create it? Think we can do it?
Yeah, I think so. I
think the system is not especially in this setup, right? The system is not particularly hard. If you say I have a list of CVs, hey, take a look at this, right? I think the interesting part about the system is more then how do you integrate in a more automated way, with the pipeline in general? Do you use it for auto tagging or flagging CVs? Do you want to use it for decision making, which then brings a whole new legal data privacy bias question that you need to take care of, right? So I guess the ML part, I think it's the key part is how accurate is it? How much can you map it to what you are looking for? But I think then the interesting questions are also how do you integrate in the workflow that actually works well alongside the recruiters, right?
Yeah, I feel this particular demo is maybe, I know we've also been investing in resume screening in this particular part, but it's maybe actually not an ideal demo for an async agent, because you might as well just do this in batch sync. It's not the most difficult task. You don't have a crazy amount of resumes to screen typically. So yeah, maybe it's not the ideal example even for running this type of agent.
But I think the interesting tech behind the scenes is going to be the asynchronicity of it, the scalability of it, the fact that you could do a lot of them in parallel. I think the other interesting thing is there's definitely some sort of like sandbox, file reading kind of things like going on as well. So there's some VM or sandbox environment. Those are the interesting technologies kind of like behind the scenes. We've developed a lot of that stuff here as well, which, I think for this one, it's a vertical use case. For us, we want to build something more horizontal, but definitely possible, definitely real.
Yeah, I agree. I think the code execution part is probably the interesting part of that demo.
I'll ask Clark to build an app for our operations team to manage grocery deliveries, pulling orders from Snowflake, driver locations from our internal API, and payments from Stripe. Clark uses a multi-agent architecture to achieve best-in-class accuracy, orchestrating across expert AI agents in design, IT, engineering, security, and QA. First, the design agent uses our design system to create the UI from reusable components, ensuring visual guidelines and accessibility standards are met. Next, the IT admin agent enforces our data access policies. It validates my permissions for Snowflake and our internal API, but denies access to Stripe since I'm not authorized. I'll proceed without payment data. Next, the engineer agent queries the order data from Snowflake and driver location data from our internal API. The security agent then scans the code and detects a package outside our allow list, swapping it for an approved alternative. Finally, the QA agent identifies a bug with search, handing it off to the engineer agent to fix. Now, I have a working app. Let's ask Clark to set granular permissions. Only allow US Ops directors to issue refunds over $500. Clark has full context of our Okta groups, so it adds logic to disable the refund button accordingly. From here, business users can make changes visually, while developers can edit the underlying React code in their IDE, enabling seamless collaboration. Hundreds of customers, like Instacart, Carrier, and Cvent, are already automating their operations with Superblocks today.
I guess Marcus start with his take here.
I mean, I think it's the question is like kind of, is it real like as is? I think it can be real. Like I would say like I'm a bit like optimistic there. I'd say like if you have like the right amount of like resources to basically invest into kind of like the building like all these integrations, building like the agent to agent communication like handovers. I think you can build it in probably like a very hacky way to make it real. I think you can also like basically build in a way that's like pretty generalizable, such you can swap agents and like change policies and so on. I think that's a bit like questionable, but I would say there's definitely like a scenario where this is real with like the right levels of like integrations and maybe also like fairly strong priors of like what you actually want the agents to do. So I would say it's possible. It's like,
yeah. I guess I think I look at this prompt up there, which is maybe one sentence and 3 lines, and I think about 100 prompts like that. And I think the likelihood of getting a UI that looked like that end product on 99 of them is probably 0.
Yeah.
But I think that the idea of these agents helping you make progress towards that seems like we're barking up the right tree. But I think
they were like kind of what I thought is like, okay, it could still like work because like if you have like fairly strong priors and like you in the follow up you kind of like specify just like more things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is like probably like too general. I agree, but like then if basically the agents also know kind of like what follow up questions you actually need to ask, like what do you need to basically take the right decisions, I think it can be real. Yeah.
I feel like every individual one of these tasks is already pretty hard to get right in an enterprise level setting as we're seeing to implement this. So it just seems like a bit hype that you could just like orchestrate all of these agents, and they have so many handoffs and degrees of failure that like it's just like, to me this is like the classic example of like you run a demo and like it works on one example, but like that will not survive contact with real world data. Or at least like to Mark's point, of course, you can make it work, but it will be an insane amount of work. It's like nowhere near like out of the box.
Yeah. I think you nailed it. It's like the out of the box nature of it, I think is definitely hype just because the possibility of anything going wrong in a system like that is just so high. I think the example you gave is like perfect. Like you want, if you want something to work like that, then the variance on your request has to be low. And I don't think that demo gave me confidence that the variance is going to be low. Now, do I think that you could deploy a team to a customer and say, this is the framework that we want to do, and we're going to get it right for you for a specific use case with a small enough scope for a specific customer base that's doing a specific thing? I think yes, but you could see how many qualifiers I had to put on that situation in order for us to get it right. And so like we've talked about a ton, like you've told us like how many like things that seem so simple are so hard to get right. And we saw like 25 of those right there, right? So that's definitely challenging.
I mean, like another example we just saw in there is like, I don't know, like it has full context of like design principles. And like, sure, like if you have like 3 design principles and it executes it and that's fine. But like if you have like a very big design system, lots of principles, and then actually assuming that the agent will just like adjust the entire design correctly based on like the principles in context is delusional at this point.
But I actually think there's a way to get that right. This is like the product thing that we're talking about. If you allow it to like bootstrap, and it's like something that I think they did get right was at the end they were like, oh, you can go in and insert your React code and then edit it. Or like I think there was like something that said that you could drag the padding if you didn't like it.
Yeah.
If you could insert human behavior at any point and then kind of offload things to an agent to adjust what based on what you did, kind of like the cursor like thing, I think you could get it right. Because it's still useful that you don't have to do a bunch of that stuff. But I think if you just try to one-shot it, you're going to be pretty disappointed, you know.
It was pretty hype, though.
It did look cool, I got to say. That exists.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just need to think a lot about the constraints, right? So is this basically like a self-serve product or like a set of agents that like non-technical users can just like control by writing like a few prompts? It's like, that's definitely hype or like not real. But I think if you put in like the right constraints in place and say like, that's what you can do. Basically also what Felix mentioned, this kind of like human in the loop thing where like you do like one step, you can basically let the human like take a look at it, like make a few corrections and then keep going step by step. I think that's a good approach. It's more like the how constrained can the workflow be, and then I think it can be pretty real. Yeah,
I guess you just have to work with all of these agents pretty intensely to then make it work in production. But it's possible.
I think the way to do it is to have an IT team help with the IT agent, have a design team help with the design agent, and have them constantly, you know, working, collaborating with those agents. Yeah.
Marlo, a product manager here at Google Cloud, and I am stoked to be here today showcasing our next generation customer engagement suite in action. To be honest, I'm even more excited to spruce up our keynote stage. I was thinking some greenery and flowers might be nice. You know, I've already made a couple of trips to the hardware store this morning, and I still forgot to pick up potting soil. Classic. So let's see how a next-gen agent can hopefully help me get this last order correct. We're going to start a brand new voice interaction with our agent here.
Hi there. Welcome to Simple Home and Garden. Is this Patrick?
Hey, yeah, this is Patrick. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning to you too, Patrick. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. It looks like you've been shopping with us recently. I see you have a few things in your cart already. What can I help you with today?
Yeah, so I just bought some plants and I'm trying to pick out potting soil and fertilizer, and I'm not sure if I'm getting the right stuff. Could you help me with that?
I can definitely help with that, Patrick. To give you the best recommendations, could you show me the plants you bought? I can take a look and help you choose the best soil and fertilizer. I'm sending a video request to your browser now. Great, I can see you. Just hold the plants up to the camera so I can help identify them.
Yeah, so I have about 40 of these in various different colors.
Those are beautiful petunias. They're a great choice for vibrant color. Let me take a closer look at the items in your cart. Okay, I see you have standard potting soil and general purpose fertilizer. That could work, but petunias really thrive in a rich, well-draining soil and a fertilizer specifically for flowering plants. Okay, I found some recommendations for your petunias.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at these now. They look fantastic. Thanks.
Great! Would you like me to remove the standard potting soil and general purpose fertilizer and add the Bloom Booster potting mix and Flower Power fertilizer to your cart?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay, I've updated your cart. Is there anything else I can help you with today?
I mean, not unless you can come over and plant these for me.
Funny you should mention that. We actually do offer professional landscaping services. Would you be interested in a quote?
Yeah, I mean, how much would something like that cost?
For planting 40 petunias, I would suggest a 4-hour appointment, which would come out to $200.
4 hours.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm curious, do you also price match?
Yes, we do price match on occasion, but it's usually on a case-by-case basis.
Oh, in that case, I most definitely saw an ad from one of your competitors, Greenscapes, where they were offering 50% off first-time landscaping services for new customers. You should totally give me that 50% discount.
Apologies, but it looks like that amount is beyond what I'm authorized to approve. Let me check with my supervisor to see what we can do. Just a moment.
We're all
right.
I mean, I feel like I'm very biased by the scope that they showed us, you know, and I feel like the scope they showed us was very tractable. Like every single step along the way, I was like, oh yeah, I could see how you could do that, you know. I think it kind of depends on how wide the scope you mean by productionalizing this is, right?
Yeah. I mean, I yeah, like you said, Sam, it's like there's a very particular I think when I analyze something that's multiple steps like that, obviously we talked about the agent stuff, I think that's possible, but the individual units of work when you're being responded to, do those seem small enough? Yeah. And if you looked at it, you were like, okay, at one point it was like, look up potting soil, like you identify flower. That's reasonable. There's a model that can do that pretty good. Like, can you look up soil? There is a limited number of soil options, and there is enough data on an LLM for it to process. Then you look at the next steps. Like, so every single step seemed tractable. If you were to expand the catalog, or if you were to expand some other things, like I think that gets a little bit dicey. Whether or not can do every single possible thing on like Amazon or Walmart or something like that, that would be a little bit challenging. But what we saw, that seemed reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, I would kind of agree that like at least most of what they're shown, like especially for like a single vertical type solution, yeah, it seems like you could manage all of that somewhat in context, and have like the right tools to get all that information. I mean, like, I was actually like getting a little bit more dicey with like the landscaping service. Like it seems like that's like more an open-ended thing where like I kind of sure that seems to work like, oh, for this particular very staged example, but like if you actually had any other type of request, I feel like the more natural non-demo thing would be like, oh yeah, I can't help you with that. Versus kind of like, oh, we happen to have this service off. That seems like a bit out there, but I think like most of the rest of the shopping seemed like some quite realistic.
All right, Debbie Downer.
So why is it not feasible? I think it's definitely feasible, but like the impression I got from the demo was just, it was kind of like too scripted.
Yeah.
Like there was like, I would basically assume like, I mean, I'm not a professional gardener or anything, but like basically I would assume like an agent would have to like, to basically do it well, like you would probably ask a lot of follow-up questions of like kind of, I don't know, how exposed it is. Is it to the sun? Is it like on a balcony? Is it in the garden? Like, where do you live? Okay, maybe they know like where he lives because like he ordered something before, but like, I don't know, do you have like a big garden? How accessible is it? Like whatever, right? So I think just this kind of, I also lost it a bit with like this gardening thing. Like, yeah, it's like 200 flat. So I think it's like, technically it's feasible. I think if you also there, like the scope is like fairly small, but I think just like the impression I got from this one is like, it was super scripted.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe the demo was real, but the vision is hype.
I think that's actually a very fair point. Like I feel like the just if you actually like think about like, you would need all this extra information and you might want to actually offer multiple options across the board. So like it just happens to be like the one potting soil that you needed for this other type of flower. Yeah, that seems like pretty.
Yeah. I think what you said, Mark, just kind of triggered something in me, which is that there is a nuance between the reason why I think it was triggering to hear the landscaping thing is because there was like a intent analysis part of that, where that, like, you know, who was he, Patrick or whoever he is, when he was presenting, he just said like, not unless it was like a joke, right? And it wasn't an actual request for something. Yet that thing, the AI interpreted it as a request for something. That to me more demoware vibes, right? There's like a prompt in there that says, oh, everything is, imagine is a request, even if it's not phrased that way or something like that. I feel like that would probably break down in an enterprise setting, that you would like hard code those prompts in there. So probably those intent-based things could be a little bit hype and very specific. Generalization, I think. But I would say a small shop, totally fine. Like it would probably work.
Well, I think it just depends on what enterprise you're talking about. I mean, I think if it's like this small gardening, small business for marketing, maybe it is meaningful. But, you know, right. If you think about Fortune 50 companies, I think that, you know, then I think the scope gets a little challenging.
On the other hand, I feel like, voice agents for custom support in the broader sense, this is of course shopping, but it's essentially also support. Yeah, I mean, like that's something we're working on. That's like very real impact. Like none of the voice agent part of this was like any hype. I mean, like it actually felt like a little bit clunky. I feel like the voice agents are somewhat actually a little bit better in this already. So so none of this is hype and sure impact.
Yeah, I think it's useful. I think there are a few things that I'd probably do a little bit differently. I was talking about this before about like in the design phase of an agentic solution, you probably need to design it in a specific, like one thing is like, there's no chance we would have expected that it would know about landscaping services. Like when he said that, we were like, oh, what a scripted joke. And then it actually responded, we're like, oh shoot, they have landscaping services, right? It's just like, that's one of the problems with this kind of space. It's like when something is agentic, you just don't know what it can do. So you don't even know what to ask. And I feel like in 99% of settings, like you probably would never even know that feature existed. So I feel like there could be a better job done in these scenarios to make things like usable. Is you got to present it a certain way. You got to make sure that the scripted paths are going to be pretty high quality and the non-scripted paths are going to be less quality. So you should do your best to guide people down the scripted paths, and that could yield pretty good impact. Yeah.
Operator can actually basically use any websites and it is not particularly optimized for Instacart. But the reason why using this app is that it provides a detailed instruction of how this website can be best utilized, just like the tutorial that human can benefit from. So I'll use Instacart tab and ask it to solve task. Could you find a recipe of linguine with clams from our recipes website and add all ingredients to the grocery cart of Instacart? I think I already have some ingredients like butter, vegetable oil, and
very specific
waters.
prompts.
You might want to dictate
leftover.
that. I mean,
Yeah.
So you don't need to add them to the cart. So it says that I'll find recipe and then add everything in the ingredients to the cart. And okay, it says that it'll confirm the ingredients and store
they have an
with
interesting
me
way of
before
sharing
adding them
screens.
to the cart. So let's start by
happening with the camera?
finding the recipe. I'm not doing anything from now on. The operator is just doing, and I'm just watching what it's doing. What is interesting with the operator is that it is using browsers that are built for the human, and it is seeing the exactly same script that I'm seeing right now, and using the keyboard typing and mouse clicking to control the browser, just like human would do. This is different from other agents that uses API or programming-based interface, which programmers might understand, but non-programmer users cannot understand really well. So operator, because it is using this natural human interface, it's very easy to follow by just looking at what it's doing in the screen.
Can you follow its progress?
Yes. So one way to following its progress is I can zoom in to see the screen better. And Operator is powered by the text-based chain of thought reasoning. So whenever it is doing things, it says, it makes plans of how things can be done. And this can be followed through this list of the dots. And it says that I found the recipe and which store would you prefer to use? So I'll ask, use Gus's. So often it asks clarifying question whenever it is
Why does it
needed.
keep showing home of the screen?
In the process of solving the task. There are cases that operator have to make sensitive actions like things like logging in or buying things. In this case, we built operator to be safe in this situation. So operator is designed to ask us to take control to log in by ourselves, or whenever it needed checking it, it gives us the control so that I can double check whether the list is correct and then checking it by myself.
Oh wow.
Felix,
Wow, I'm
let's
surprised
go.
you guys are real, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I think Instacart shopping with recipes is totally accessible. Actually, we did a hackathon like a few months ago where we were trying to figure out how to sort of incorporate multimodal stuff, and I thought back to actually Alex's like founding story of Scale, where he wanted to build a CV model to figure out if his roommate was taking things out of his fridge. And so we kind of like we did a demo sort of based off that, where you would upload a photo of a fridge, and it would help you track your inventory with sort of multimodal LLM. So trying to solve that problem for 19-year-old Alex. And then you could ask follow-up questions like, you know, what can I make with what I have in the fridge? And so I think this scope of actions and requirements are pretty reasonable. And I think you know, grocery shopping is a pretty accessible thing to where operator and these computer use models are today.
I think it's doable.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the right way to do stuff. I don't think it's practical. Like
Yeah.
you're telling me that shopping experience, you would use that.
But that's not the
Guaranteed, no.
question, right? The
No,
question
but-
is like, is this basically
Well-
like the way it is it real?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm interpreting the question of real or hype as in like, is this just a demonstration to demonstrate that
Yeah.
AI is cool, or is it actually going to be practically applied to your life and it's like something that I would pursue? Me personally, I'll say a little bit of a hot take. I don't believe that much in browser use, to be completely honest. Like, I just don't think it's made for computers. It's made for humans, and I think it's natural for you to assume that you'd want to interact with it the way that a human would. Now, here's something I do believe. I do believe that let me put an analogy. Robotics, you would think like, do I need to make this complicated, like dexterous robot with 5 fingers and 2 legs and 2 arms? Like that makes my life so much harder as a robot developer. But the reason why you do it is because the human world is designed to be for humans. So there's stairs, there's elevators, everything. So you would want to build something, even though it adds complexity to your life, you'd want to design something that fits into that world. So that's the same analogy for operators. So it makes sense. But realistically, the way that a computer looks at the code of what page it's on to interpret where the input boxes are and try to do, like, it's just so overly complex to analyze that sort of stuff. And the code doesn't reflect the screen. Do you see what I'm saying? Like when I look at the code as an interpreter, it doesn't reflect what I see visually. And so to me, it's just such a forced thing that I think is correct in its principle, like what it's trying to do, but I don't think tactically it's right. Like if I were to try to do this from first principles, I mean, this is a very expensive thing to do. If I were Google or somebody else, I would invent a browser that's made for AI interaction. I would go from that direction.
Well, I think it's what some of these labs
Right,
are doing.
exactly.
And I think also
Yeah.
that's why Microsoft sort of announced that sort of protocol around reading the internet for LLMs, right?
Yeah.
You can basically make your website accessible to LLMs in a more first-class way. I think it makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. So.
But I agree also with the robotics analogy, right? If you say like, well, I need to build a robot that like grasps this cup. Like if it's like a standard cup, it's like fairly hard to grasp. But like you could also make a cup which is like a lot easier to grasp. Yeah. So I think from my perspective, it's like operator thing is essentially it's more like an intermediate step or like bridging a gap. Also, maybe if you look at like enterprise use cases, there are like maybe a lot of internal tools which don't have APIs, right? And it's like, well, you maybe still want to, like, the cool thing is like if you have agents running like async, right? They can do like, if it takes like 10 minutes, like whatever, because like I don't have to spend my time on it as long as I trust it, right? And I think that's like the interesting thing about like operator or like computer use, right? Where like it's not the like best like strategic or like tactical approach like in the long term. Like I think there's like, I mean, he also says it in the demo, right? It's like ideally you have like an API, and like, but if you don't have an API, then it's probably like a good way to approach it to like bridge this gap.
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, as we said, like it's definitely real. I mean, like we've kind of like built similar things. I'm actually going to go with a reverse hot take to you, in the sense that I do also believe that this is maybe not like the future of like how everything's going to work. But I do feel we're probably biased by the fact that like I feel we would be a lot more convinced that this is a very useful thing, even in terms of the experience, if the speed would be 10x of this. Basically, I feel if this would be blazing fast, I think people would be very convinced that this is extremely useful. I think one of the things that makes us so dragging is kind of like you just sit there and wait for the thing to
it's just not
to
practical.
do things that you as a human do at like 5x the speed, basically, and that makes it like very impractical. But if this would be, which is like very realistic potentially, was like the speed of the model development, if this goes like in an instant, like 10x faster than a human could do it, then and you literally just it literally just comes back with like the one decision you need to take after like a second, I feel like then suddenly people go like, oh, that's amazing. Basically, that thing can operate, even though it's made for humans, but that thing can operate the web for me so much more efficiently. It's amazing.
Yeah, but I think it's like one of the jarring things about it is just like, I'm not gonna like prompt something and then just sit here and do nothing. Like, you know what I mean? Like I need my computer. Do you know what I mean? So like if it's like a farm of computers and sitting around, or maybe there's a VM where it's like, you know, has no GUI or something like that, then like, like you could farm it and stuff like that. But like, I'm not going to let it do something and not just sit here and do nothing else.
It should probably operate a twin of
it has to operate itself. But I do have a question. Do you guys believe that they will change, like it is more likely for Operator to become useful in its current form? Or do you think it's more likely that those providers of browsers will change and that's when it will become useful? Which comes first?
I feel that both will happen to a degree at the same time. I feel like there's definitely like a trend. I mean, like I'm very much with what all you guys said, that like the interfaces are going to change like dramatically, both hardware and software, like with all of these models, interfaces are going to change like no matter what. I do feel that at the same time, things like Operator that are somewhat like in this like weird middle are going to become super efficient and super useful as well.
Thanks for listening to Human in the Loop. To stay in the loop for more AI-related content, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.